Hey, what it do, YouTube? It's your boy Q. And this morning I did my first watch party over here for 2023 on the channel for the Bilibili Stellar Cup Grand Finals. What it was a match point format tournament where we almost saw yet another grand final in the APAC South region end in just 5 games. And while XO Clan did end up winning after coming in second their first game on match point, while not quite finishing in 5 games, they'd end up wrapping things up in the grand finals in just 8 games. But it left me remembering just a few weeks back for the ALGS APAC-North Split 1 Regionals, where we saw history made with a 13-game series. And the team that would eventually win, Crazy Raccoon, was actually the 9th team that became eligible for match point that ended up walking away with the dub. Now, we know that match point can give us banger series and fire content as fans, but when we talk about esports, does the ALGS match point format almost like hurt the perception of the competitive integrity? I mean, after all, a battle royale like Apex drops 20 teams into the same map, right? There's RNG of loot, there's third parties, and more like unique things to the genre, but personally, I think it's almost perfect. So let's get down and do what it do. Now, first off, I think it's very important to understand how match point format works, just in case you don't. The first thing that a team must do in order to become eligible for match point, they got to hit that 50-point threshold by traditional ALGS scoring. So that's a combination of both placement points and kill points as well. Once a team surpasses that 50-point marker, then they have to win a game. And you must start that game on match point as well. So if we were to take a look back at that record-breaking series out of the APAC-North region, for example, since we're going to be talking about that a lot this video, if we were to see back when Crazy Raccoon, if they had won their 27-point game 9 instead of finishing second, they still would have needed to win an additional game because they hadn't started that game on match point. You tracking with me? Now, as a spectator, the fact that Fnatic went into game number 5 with match point and we still got an additional 8 games with more and more teams being at that match point marker heading into each additional game, banging. But I can also understand the point from like the competitor side that the overall leaderboard didn't really change much, at least at the top as the day went along, right? Well, except for Reignite. Oof. And the fix that I'm going to recommend at the end of our discussion would have caused us to have been done after just 7 games. But the question would be at that point, is it worth it, right? Well, really, the real question that I have for y'all over here on YouTube is a team winning the last game that they play during a season split or even during a tournament necessary in order for them to be considered a champion? I mean, to be fair, I kind of get it, right? We live in this age where people consider someone with a losing record in the NBA Finals to be the greatest to ever do it. So I can understand where this misconception could come from that you don't necessarily need to win to be considered the best. But literally in every other esports outside of Apex, well, and other BRs for the most part, they require you to win your last game that you play, right? Rocket League, League of Legends, Super Smash Bros., Valorant. In order to call yourself champion, you win your last game. And while sure, you aren't exactly playing team versus team like those other games, I would argue that in ALGS format, you are playing against every other team in that 20-team lobby. Now, playing devil's advocate real quick, as y'all know I love to do over here on the channel, which is why you rock with your boy. Is it fair that 7 of the 8 teams that qualified before Crazy Raccoon won games before Crazy Raccoon, but just won them at the wrong time so they don't get to walk away with the dub? I mean, a couple of those teams, 2 of them actually won multiple games. And funny enough, if there had already been running off the idea that I have for an updated game point system, the switch at the top of the leaderboard between my preseason pick Fnatic and Northception would have already happened. And the rest of the scoreboard, for the most part, would have looked pretty similar to what we saw at the end of all 13 games. Now, Before we talk about the change, I want y'all to consider just one more thing, even with the potential of having these marathon series, right? Because it doesn't happen often, right? The 3 previous match point events that I can think of in the APAC South region that I've either watched or had watch parties for prior to the Stellar Cup, they all ended in 5 games. I mean, we saw Esports Arena do it in the NA Regionals in just 5 games with no one else qualifying for match point. Moist won the APAC South Regionals in just 5 games. Of course, that was one of those previous 3 events that I was talking about. But in these cases, and even cases where they go longer, generally the overall scoreboard, it just doesn't really shift much. And I would say that in cases that they do, it makes for really dope and exciting storylines. Now, I know I've teased plenty of time here over the course of this video. At this point, you probably just want to hear about my suggested change. But if you do enjoy thought-provoking videos like this about competitive Apex, along with news and updates and even watch parties, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button because we are chasing down that first 100 over here on the new channel. And if you do like my idea, I need y'all to do me a favor and leave your feedback down below in those comments and hit that like button because, you know, algorithm things, right? So right now as it stands with match point, once a team hits 50 points, at that point they need to win in order to be crowned champion, right? But the problem can be that sometimes you get to the end of a game where you have maybe a team or a few teams that are at that match point. None of them wins and you run it back. No one new is competing for the dub and it almost feels anticlimactic. My suggested plan, however, would allow for an early stop to those match point tournaments if there are no new teams that achieve match point over the course of the following game. So for the example, after Game 4, when Fnatic achieves game point in the APAC-North Regional Finals, either they win game number 5 or another team must achieve match point in order to keep things going, right? And in this case, that would end up being Reignite. We'll end up calling this like a redemption round or something. Y'all tell me what y'all want down in the comments. So in Game 6, when neither Fnatic or Reignite won, it was Northception, Flora, and Pulverex that qualified the lobby for another redemption round by passing that match point marker. However, after Game 7, since no new teams passed that 50-point marker, that would mean that the lobby would be done and placed based off of that scoring. Now, of course, just like normal, if any team passes that 50-point marker and wins a game, same rules apply as the current format. Whereas, as long as you started that game at that 50-point marker beforehand, right? And I do realize that realistically, this isn't much different than the current format, but I do think that this helps avoid those games like that continuance in the APAC North Regionals between Game 7 and 8, where no new teams were eligible to win, and it feels like an empty restart. I also think that this gives a little bit of sense of control back to those teams who sit at the top of the leaderboard, right? If I can prevent anyone else that needs to win from winning while also walking away with enough KP and placement to finish where I want to in the leaderboard, a la, Furia and Raleigh, right? Then I can walk away with the dub instead of having some team get a lucky, clean third party in the end circle and walk away victorious. Now, at the end of the day, personally, I'm really all for the current format. Match point format has delivered us some of the best moments in competitive Apex, and as I said at the beginning of this, from the spectator side, I really just don't think it gets much better, but let me know what you guys think down in those comments below, all right? Do you like the new format? Would my suggestion make it feel any better? And if you feel like you got a better solution, definitely let me know down in the comments below because I'm always down for change if it's going to spice things up. You know what I mean? Now, if you've made it this far in the video, I'm going to guess that you enjoyed the vibes, man. This is a new channel over here on the YouTube, so it would really help me out if you left a comment and hit that like button. Those are the 2 things that help me get, the most of that algorithm. You know what I mean? And if you hit that subscribe button, we can catch you right back here when that next video drops, or we pop live for another, watch party. You know what I mean? And so we catch y'all back over here on YouTube, man. Don't forget, with everything crazy going on in the world today, be true, be you, be sincere, game hard and love harder. All right, y'all? It's your boy Q, signing out.
If you ain't show something, you just don't wanna be. You wanna be me, but you will never be as fresh as CUA.